The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, that's right. It is Monday, February 9th, 2026. And today is up. Gary, you're going to love this. It's National Bagel and Lox Day.
Great.
Yeah, right? Did you have bagel and lox this morning, Jesse? You look like a bagel and lox guy.
I'm not a big lox fan.
No? Interesting.
No, not really.
Just a big fan of bagels, huh? Just the first half.
I like bagels. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I like a quality bagel.
All right. It's also National Clean Out Your Computer Day.
I do that every day. To keep the machine running clean.
National Toothache Day. How the hell does toothaches have a national day?
Well, you know, you got to honor the toothache. That way you go to the dentist.
National ReHydration Day. I like this one. I like to rehydrate.
Rehydrate as opposed to hydrate?
Yeah, rehydrate because I'm, constantly hydrating. You know what I mean, Gary?
Yep.
If you're rehydrating, that means you were dehydrated.
No, it doesn't. It means you're rehydrating. It doesn't mean you're dehydrated. It means that you were thirsty and now you're thirsty again. You know what I mean? America runs off of the thirst trap.
I don't know what the word for that would be, but that would be just maintaining hydration rather than rehydrating.
I don't know, bro. I don't think your English is correct on this, Jesse. I think you're gonna have to take an English
rehydrating
lesson.
totally implies that you got dehydrated.
You know what, Jesse?
You were hydrated, then you were dehydrated, so you had to rehydrate.
I don't think
you don't need to be rehydrated if you're already hydrated.
That's right.
You do have to be rehydrated.
Saying.
You guys don't understand how hydration works, apparently. National Rehydration Day on the Monday after the big game puts a spotlight on mass dehydration following the most watched and cheered for sporting event in America each year, the big game, the Super Bowl. While the day before is a nationwide celebration, the morning after is a call to everyone, not just athletes on the big screen, to focus on recovery, wellness, and replenishing the body.
The first line nailed it, bro. Gotcha.
I knew you were going to say that, Jesse. It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. We all learn and grow.
I didn't learn anything. It's also National Cut the Cord Day today, Jesse.
Like the umbilical cord?
I knew you were going to say that. I knew that was going to totally be your guess right there. But no, that is not, Jesse. What's that?
Cable cord?
Yes, you are exactly right, Michael Minardi. It is the cable cord. Break free from the expensive cable bills on February 9th by celebrating National Cut the Cord Day. The streaming movement has rapidly grown over the past 5 years, and it doesn't show any signs of stopping.
Yeah, the problem is that if you're going to have all of the entertainment that you used to have on cable, you've got to subscribe to like 15 different services.
Well, we know that
$15 a piece, so it's actually more expensive than cable.
We know, Jesse, that all of these days are, are all marketing ploys. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very, 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 very true. Speaking of marketing employees, it's also National Pizza Day.
Oh, Pizzagate, in honor of Pizzagate.
Oh, easy there with all that. Oh, man. Hillary Clinton's supposed to be testifying pretty soon.
Once again, the conspiracy theorists get proven right.
They were
Pizzagate was
definitely
real.
right. Pizzagate was totally real. So was the Wayfair and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So now, but nobody can deny it.
We can't deny
What
it.
is what is the scoreboard for this conspiracy theories?
Conspiracy theorists
like
are
1,000 to 1.
I don't think a conspiracy theorist has ever lost.
I don't think so. I think we've won every single thing.
Yeah, we have. As crazy as it all has sounded, we were right. Shout out to Cat Williams. And Jesse, it's also National Football Hangover Day.
Okay. Yeah, there's probably a lot of people with that.
Yeah, I thought that would have went into the rehydration day, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let's drink because we drank too much from the Super Bowl, which people who drink, I guess, still do that.
Did you guys drink a lot yesterday?
I drank a fair amount, but I never got drunk.
I don't drink.
I was on the pace. I'm good at pacing. I can drink all day and never get drunk.
You're a redhead. You have a higher tolerance for everything.
Well, I have a higher tolerance too, but I'm pretty good at not drinking more than a drink an hour or hour and a half.
And this is a little message I'm probably going to share every day of the week just because I enjoy this and I want to send our love out to our friends out in Japan. President Trump posted a Truth Social post yesterday. Fantastic post, you guys. Congratulations to Prime Minister Sanae Takachi and her coalition on a landslide victory in today's very important vote. She is highly respected and very popular leader, and Sanae's bold and wise decision to call for an election paid off big time. Her party now runs the legislature, holding a historic 2/3 supermajority, and the first time since World War II. Sanae, it was my honor to endorse you and your coalition, and I wish you the greatest success in passing your conservative peace through strength agenda. The wonderful people of Japan who voted for with such enthusiasm will always have my strong support, President Donald J. Trump. So shout out to Sanae, and I don't know if you guys know this, but this is a really big deal because she was already elected the prime minister, and there was a whole bunch of wokies in parliament, and she basically threw herself on the sword and said, you know what? We're gonna have a whole new election on everybody, to which she had to be reelected as well. And her party, they got rid of over 100 wokies in Japan in parliament, which was a major landslide and that was more than anybody anticipated that watches this. So congratulations to Sanae, and congratulations to strong female leaders. We want to celebrate those female leaders out there. You know what I'm saying, Jesse?
Go Japan.
Yes. And on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website, www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And today, you guys, big news. Michael, you are going to love this. I think, Gary, you're going to love this too. You guys being lawyers and all, because a sentencing commission proposes major changes to federal guidelines that could expand probation, reshape career offender rules, and reduce the impact of prior cannabis convictions, you guys. That's right. The United States Sentencing Commission is proposing some of the most consequential changes to the federal sentencing guidelines in years, including reforms that could significantly expand the use of probation and split sentences while dramatically redefining how prior drug and violent convictions trigger enhanced penalties under the career offender rule. The proposal, set for official publication on February 6th in the Federal Register, opens a public comment period through March 18th and outlines multiple potential amendments the Commission is considering for the 2026 guideline cycle. Among them are revisions to how judges choose between imprisonment and probation, a substantial expansion of zones B and C of the sentencing table, and sweeping changes to the definitions of crime of violence and controlled substance offense that determine who qualifies as a federal career offender. One of the most notable proposals would expand the flexibility judges have when deciding whether a defendant should be sent to prison at all, and the commission is considering adding new commentary and a new guideline instructing courts to more deliberately weigh sentencing options before defaulting to incarceration. The proposed language emphasizes that probation is itself a punitive sentence and highlights Congress's original intent that courts retain flexibility to tailor sentences based on individual circumstances, available rehabilitative resources, and the goals of sentencing. In tandem with this philosophical shift, the Commission is proposing a dramatically expand zones B and C of the sentencing table. Currently, these zones allow judges to substitute probation with confinement conditions or impose split sentences where part of the term is served outside of prison. Under the proposal, defendants with guideline ranges ranging well beyond what is currently eligible could qualify for these alternatives. And for example, in criminal history category 1, ranges now that require prison time could become eligible for probation with confinement or split sentences reaching into multi-year ranges. At the same time, the Commission is weighing fundamental changes to the career offender guideline, which has long been criticized for producing rigid and sometimes counterintuitive outcomes. The proposal would eliminate the traditional categorical approach used by courts to determine whether a prior conviction qualifies as a violent or drug offense. And instead of analyzing statutory elements in an abstract way, the Commission is considering listing specific federal crimes and creating new methods for evaluating state convictions based on how offenses are labeled or how their conduct compares to federal definitions. The changes to the crime of violence definition could make it easier for prosecutors to classify prior offenses as violent by relying on offense labels and broader conduct comparisons, and however, the proposal pairs this with significant new exclusions. Defendants could rebut a presumption that a conviction is violent by showing they served little or no jail time, that no serious bodily injury occurred, or that their conduct was merely reckless or negligent. Equally significant are the potential changes to the definition of controlled substance offense. One option would limit qualifying offenses to a list of specific federal drug trafficking statutes, excluding state drug convictions entirely from triggering career offender status. Another option would keep the offense, but require that the prior conviction resulted in a substantial prison sentence, potentially 1, 3, or even 5 years before it can count. For marijuana cases, this could have a major effect. Under current rules, old state marijuana felonies for distribution, trafficking, or intent to distribute can be used to classify someone as a federal career offender years later. And under the Commission's proposal, many of those convictions would no longer qualify, either because state offense would be excluded altogether or because the person did not serve a lengthy prison term for the marijuana conviction. These changes would ripple into firearm, explosives, money laundering, and immigration guidelines that currently rely on the same definitions. And finally, the Commission is also asking for comment on whether any of these amendments, if adopted, should apply retroactively to individuals already serving federal sentences, potentially open the door to sentence reductions for thousands of inmates whose enhancements were based in part on prior marijuana convictions. Taken together, the proposal signals a possible shift in federal sentencing away from rigid incarceration mandates and toward greater judicial discretion, while also reworking one of the most severe enhancement mechanisms in the guidelines system. Public comments will help determine how far the Commission ultimately goes before the final amendments are submitted to Congress in May. You guys, look at that. We started off the story with some good news, some new sentencing guidelines coming down the pipe, and I can't wait what these attorneys have to say about this. I think this is good news. This sounds good news to me. This sounds like the First Step Act, the second step.
Yeah, from my perspective, anything that reduces points in a federal sentencing scheme, obviously at this point, this wouldn't affect any state issues, right? So, or state sentences, but anything that starts to reduce those points reduces the minimum term. So now with the federal sentencing guidelines, although they are guidelines per se, typically the judges sentence the people based on the amount of points that they occur. Yeah. Right. So X amount of points equals X amount of time in jail. And they base that on prior criminal convictions and the severity of the current offense that they're being charged with. So, especially marijuana crimes, where we know, I think probably one of the biggest human rights violations and civil injustices, no man outside of obviously slavery and things of that nature, but a man-made, created situation that this has to happen. It's ridiculous that people are still getting locked up for a flower, no matter how much amount that you have, considering, especially in a state like Florida, there's people that are selling it, tons of it currently on pretty much, every town, every city in the state. And for people to still be going to prison for lengthy periods of time for it is just absolutely flippin' ridiculous. Unless they're selling it to kids, unless they can prove that they're selling it to kids, stop it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources and money. And, this can only help it.
I think this is good news. Well, and in regards on the state issue, basically what they're saying is that they're not going to count cannabis offenses from state crimes as points on the federal scale, which I think that's a big deal, Michael.
So 100% in my state issue was it won't affect someone getting sentenced in the state of Florida or California or whatever for it. It doesn't impact that. But absolutely, the feds deciding not to do that, I think, is a wonderful, absolutely. Again, anything to reduce the amount of points that person has on the score sheet reduces the amount of time and severity of the offense.
Wow. What do you think about this, Gary?
I agree. I mean, I think that it's a step in the right direction. And, I think that law enforcement should be focused on the things that are most dangerous, which is cartel type activity, violent crimes, obviously preying on underage users. So if they can streamline that law enforcement, that would be great. But by the same token, when someone gets caught up in the system, assuming they don't have any of those indicia in their violation, they should not suffer maximum or even severe sentencing, it would seem like.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this, Jesse?
That's just good. It's good news.
Yeah, I think this is great news. So make sure you guys get your public comments in before this March 18th deadline, and make your voices heard, because definitely this is the way where everyone can be a criminal justice reform advocate by participating in these public comment periods that they're requesting. So on that, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we're going to be right back. Something like that. I can pull it up when we go to our next commercial, Gary, for you. But Gary, I know you have a high interest in this next story. Oh man, Ohio, baby. A lot of fast action going on, because Yost sues the multi-state cannabis operators for anti-competitive practices. You guys, that's right. In an antitrust lawsuit, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost accuses 9 multi-state cannabis operators of engaging in anti-competitive conduct to reduce product choice and keep prices artificially high, harming both consumers and smaller Ohio-based cannabis businesses. The lawsuit stems from an October 2024 tip submitted to Yost's office by an Ohio cannabis industry employee that alleged widespread shelf space allotments among large vertical integrated cannabis companies operating in Ohio and nationwide. According to the tip, and later collaborated in the investigation, multi-state cannabis operators entered into reciprocal purchasing agreements negotiated at a national level to prioritize one another's products in Ohio's dispensaries while reducing or eliminating purchases from independent Ohio cultivators and processors. In a quote, Our investigation uncovered allegations of an industry-wide scheme designed to push small Ohio businesses out of the market. Ohio's antitrust laws protect competition and consumers, not backroom deals that rig the system for a select few. According to the tip, senior representatives from major multi-state operators met in late of 2022 and agreed to reduce purchases from independent businesses in order to preserve shelf space for one another during a period of increased supply and declining prices. The tip further alleged that some companies established explicit internal quotas, reserving a substantial percentage of dispensary shelf space for products sourced through reciprocal agreements with other multi-state operators. The defendants named in the lawsuit are, drumroll, Ascend Wellness, AYR Wellness, better known as Air Wellness, the Cannabis Company, Cresco Labs, Curaleaf, Green Thumb Industries, Juicy, Trulieve, and Verano. The lawsuit alleges each defendant violated Ohio's Valentine Act by entering into reciprocal trade agreements with competitors, sharing competitively sensitive information, and engaging in discriminatory distribution practices that disadvantage independent Ohio cannabis operators. According to the complaint, these actions reduced product choice and quality for Ohio consumers, stifled innovation, and allowed the defendants to maintain or increase supra-competitive prices in the state's cannabis market. Attorney General Yost is seeking injunctive relief to halt the alleged unlawful conduct. Wow, wow, and wow. This is huge news, huge story. This is one of the first, and I'm not surprised by this, and I'm not surprised when they listed all the players that are involved in this lawsuit. I'm sure that they have very substantial evidence, but being the fact that all of these companies all operate as multi-state operators, I'm really wondering, Michael and Gary, if all of a sudden, since a lot of these also too are publicly traded companies, if all of a sudden the SEC isn't going to start sniffing around for antitrust violations, because if they were doing it in one state, they're probably doing it in other states, and their reciprocal agreements probably reflect that. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I'll start.
Yeah.
The first thing is the SEC wouldn't likely be the bringer of that action. It would be the FTC, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Or the Department of Justice. The SEC would bring an action accusing them of failing to disclose that they did something.
Okay.
But I have to admit that the SEC, there have been plenty of opportunities for the SEC to take a crack at these public cannabis companies and their horrible disclosure about partial deals or non-binding deals that have caused the market to move. So I'm not sure. But the fact that the Ohio Attorney General is doing this is interesting, because you would assume that they have some smoke that's getting close to fire, because otherwise it would be hard for me to believe that these companies would be that
stupid
to get into, to have evidentiary facts supporting what these allegations are. But my experience with these large MSOs is a lot of people do shit, and sometimes it's not run up the appropriate polls, and maybe it is accurate. Not a good look, but companies don't necessarily play well together. So there's something that doesn't seem to make sense here.
Well, I think it may possibly have been ran up the appropriate polls, and I think there's more fire here than there is smoke, Gary.
Could be.
Oh man.
Let's just I will opine that I wouldn't put it past them from doing something like that.
See what I'm saying?
Not necessarily thinking that it is a violation of anything. I guess.
Hold on, Michael. We all know, okay, and I think everyone knows this, that any judge is going to say that ignorance of the law is not an excuse to break the law. So,
well, I guess that depends on who the company is and stuff like that, and what state you're in, and, and is it going to be a judge or is it going to be an administrative agency? What type of, issues are going to deal with it? I don't know. I feel in Florida they seem to get away with whatever they want. So,
well,
I So.
But here's the thing. This could trickle into a federal suit, because all of these companies operate in multiple states, and if they are conducting commerce in the same way, there's probable cause to believe that they're conducting it in the same fashions, to where it's a reciprocal agreement amongst all states' markets that they all operate in.
I would think it would probably be an easy discovery request.
Right.
The question is, how many states have that type of similar model that does that? So Florida wouldn't be applicable because there's no, B2B sales here in the state.
Well, but this is the thing is Florida may not be applicable, Michael. But the point of it is that once they're doing this in two different states, that's interstate commerce, and that is basically what's the right legal term that I would say? You know what I'm saying? Price fixing in nationwide markets, and so therefore that's a federal charge.
No, absolutely. If the feds got involved and stuff like that, I think it's a totally different story, and I don't see why they wouldn't necessarily. I just feel like in a lot of instances where there seems to be some pretty good evidence of corruption and fraud and briberies and things like that the feds haven't really gone after it for whatever reason. So, I don't know, like maybe some of the Epstein files, like depends on who's paying checks to make sure that their names stay out of this and the DOJ doesn't go after them. I don't know. That's my thought on those issues, but whether or not that's existing and whether or not money's above the law, I don't know. I just work in the criminal justice system.
Oh man. Gary, how much do you think it costs to not not to go to the feds?
You mean to settle the case?
How much does it cost for it not to go to the feds? How much is this payoff?
Not to have a criminal charge.
How many people do they have to bribe?
Yeah, exactly. How many? Yeah, exactly.
I think only one.
I don't think they have enough money for that. Cannabis isn't that big of an industry.
I don't think they have.
Really?
No.
Because it's getting Schedule 3 pretty quick.
Hold on, one at a time. Go ahead, Gary.
This is the mother lode of all of the cannabis companies listed, right?
Exactly.
Although Truliev's in there. Look, Trulieve spent $200 million just trying to get adult use, so they clearly find pissing away money.
Yeah.
So that I'm sure that these groups could get together a decent amount of money, but don't you something perverse about them all giving money to somebody getting together to stop antitrust violations? I don't know. Ohio, I'm not sure what the guy's doing.
I'm just thinking they did it to support the move to Schedule 3, right?
Well, you mean because you think they're going to get tax deductions all of a sudden, so they're going to have this influx of cash available to be able to spend on buying off of federal agents?
I'm just talking about how did that happen so quickly, potentially, and who did they give money to get that to happen so quickly that could also potentially say, hey, leave this alone to somebody. I don't know. I don't know who could do that, but maybe someone.
Don't you think this is kind of a logistics problem too, Michael? That first of all, let's back up a little bit. How many lawyers do these 9 companies employ that they could claim that they didn't know? We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, they can't claim that.
Right?
Yeah, that's bullshit.
And then second of all, it would seem like this is a really big story. It's kind of everywhere. I looked on this morning and there was like 15, 20 different renditions of it and all kinds of different news agencies. So the story's going all over the place. The likelihood that another AG in another state is going to pick it up and this could just steamroll, right? And that if that does happen, wow, there's going to be a real problem on their hands. And then it could go to the feds. And if that happens, do they really have enough money to pay everybody off and to make this in every state that they're doing business and the feds? I don't know about that.
What remedy are they seeking? I didn't see it in the article.
It doesn't mention any remedy that they are seeking currently. We're going to continue to follow this as this develops, though. That's for sure. Brian Dombrowski in the chat, he says, can't wait to see how a few of these groups with their conditional licenses in Texas answered the lawsuit question now. That's going to be interesting.
I would assume it would potentially maybe apply in Illinois too, right? Don't they have a horizontal type of structure that you can sell to other, dispensaries and stuff?
Which one? Which state?
These guys pretty much have their fingers in almost every state that has any kind of legal, or regulated market, and then, whether medical or recreational.
And then Brian Dombrowski, he says, real question, what state do you guys think will be next? And I know what state I think will be next. Illinois.
Sure.
Illinois. I think Illinois will be the next state to follow this type of a suit. That would be my first guess.
I mean, I don't have a pulse on how many different states have horizontal markets where you can, sell B2B.
Well, I think Michael, I think the way to look at it, I think the better way to look at it is what states are pretty much monopolized by MSOs in a limited licensure market space. And those would be the candidates, because that's where these reciprocal agreements would carry through.
I would think, isn't it most of them? Don't most states allow dispensaries to carry other brands?
Yeah, Florida is the only state that I know that doesn't like that. Everything has to be in-house.
There's only a few that don't.
Florida is the only state that I know that is like that, to my knowledge. And I could be wrong. You know what I mean? Maybe like Louisiana is like that. Possibly, I'm not sure. Maybe Mississippi, but I don't think that. That's the case.
I know out here, like Nevada definitely does. I think Arizona does. California, Oregon, Washington, Montana. They all do. Oklahoma definitely does.
Arizona does.
And those are some of the biggest states in the market period. So if they're doing it, I mean, this ball it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see if other AGs in other states pick this up, because this is a big story and a big problem. And if they're doing it in Ohio, they're doing it in other states. Like, there's just 100%. No way they didn't go, oh, let's do this in this one state. No, because that's not even where the most money is.
So what is it that they exactly, just so I'm sure I'm not the only one that doesn't, what is it exactly they agreed to do? They agreed to buy from each other and not buy from independent?
Right, correct.
To lock out shelf space and not buy from local and smaller craft growers, and also price fix so that they can they have the ability to drop prices and absorb that hit of not making money for a little while, right?
Well, not just that, Jesse.
Small farmer cannot do that.
Well, not just that though, Jesse. What they have is that their cost of production is a lot lower because they're producing much more.
Both, yeah. And
so.
But they could even take a hit and say, we're not going to make money for the next year, and we're going to squeeze everybody else out.
They definitely well can do that, but a lot of the ways that they also do that too is with their price fixing with these limited licensed state marketplaces where they keep prices artificially high on consumers, which right there, I think that's justification for a RICO suit. I mean, think about it when there's a hurricane in Florida, and then gas stations are selling bottles of water for $20 a bottle. You know what I mean? I saw a case the last time that happened with people. You know what I'm saying, with price gouging. So I think this is I think this is going to blow up into something way bigger than what it is right now.
Yeah, I can't see it. I can't see every AG in every state just ignoring this. This is going to open up some eyes and get some balls rolling in all the states.
I'm not anticipating every AG in limited market states to do this, but I am expecting the federal government to come in and as you said the FEC, Gary. Am I right about that? The FEC. Yeah. FEC, the FEC. I would expect them to come in and step in and do something.
Don't you think that that it would take more states to step up and say that this is a problem before that would happen?
If there's enough smoke there in Ohio to where they can say that all of these operators operate in multi-states, and there's some type of language in there that says that there's going to be reciprocal in the other states that they operate in, and that agreement in Ohio, Jesse, then that's all that they need. That's a nationwide conspiracy.
Well, that would be a DOJ case.
Yep.
I suspect, yes. If that were the case, and whether Pam Bondi's group and her antitrust unit is interested in that, it seems like a pretty juicy case.
It does to me too. And you know
the
what?
question then would be, can Pam Bondi get anything done?
Well, the other question is how long until Pam Bondi gets fired and we get Matt Gaetz, the real attorney general, in there? That's the real deal.
Unfortunately, I don't think it would be Matt Gaetz, but that would be awesome.
Oh, it would be because he would get approved through a recess appointment.
They named another possible person. I forget who.
It's all a distraction, Jesse. It's all a distraction.
Named somebody.
It's all a smoke
You don't
screen
think
and
they would
distraction.
just elevate Cash, huh?
Never.
Yeah, he's got a great reputation.
Yeah,
Everybody loves him.
No way. The FBI is so incompetent right now. I'm so disappointed with Cash, personally, with this whole Charlie Kirk investigation and everything. I'm so disappointed with all this.
It turns out when they show you pictures of creepy figures standing over your family in the middle of the night, you turn pretty quickly.
And why is he promoting his wife so much? It's so weird. So weird.
He's always been doing that.
So weird, bro. So weird. Oh, well. Well, we're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Michael Minardi. He's an attorney out of the great red state of Florida and is helping cannabis activists, businesses, patients, as well as people hurt by the criminal justice system help get their lives back on track. With his law firm Minardi Law, it is none other than Mr. Michael Minardi.
Hey, good morning to everyone on the West Coast, and happy high noon to those on the East Coast. Today we're talking about why many cops support Trump's marijuana rescheduling. That's right. You know, it was great during the ballot initiative time when I was working on it. The cops that would always come out and say that they support this, and it's ridiculous. So, by Gary Weigart, former St. Louis sergeant via the Missouri Independent. I dedicated decades of my life to helping keep St. Louis safe. As a former cop, I know how hard it is to do it with limited resources. We can't be everywhere at once or prevent every crime. How we prioritize our time and resources matter. That's why many police chiefs, sheriffs, and prosecutors across the country support Trump's decision to change how cannabis is classified. For over 50 years, it has been a Schedule I drug, the same category as heroin. That classification means the federal government considers it has no medical value and a high potential for abuse. But everyone knows that's simply not true anymore, including cops who have been forced to navigate conflicting federal, state, and local laws. Millions of Americans use it legally under state law every single day because 38 states have legalized cannabis in some form. This disconnect between federal and state law isn't just a technicality, it creates real problems for law enforcement. Every hour an officer spends on simple marijuana cases is an hour not spent investigating violent crime, stopping human trafficking, or getting fentanyl off the streets. Consider these stats from Law Enforcement Action Partnership. Of the 11.8 million arrests in the United States for drug-related offenses since 2011, over 80% involve simple possession. Arrests for possession of cannabis comprise approximately 35% of all drug arrests and 44% of drug possession arrests. An astonishing 16.5% of all arrests in the United States since 2011 were simply for possession of cannabis. Does that really seem like the best use of cops' time? Wouldn't you rather have law enforcement focus on real threats from violent crime and drugs like fentanyl? Rescheduling would help both law enforcement and generally harm our communities, including illegal grow operations that run by many criminal enterprises. What we're seeing going around, when you have conflicting federal and state laws, you create space for criminals to operate. Unlicensed cannabis operations, some tied to organized crime, are popping up in states like Cali and Oklahoma. These outfits don't follow any safety standards, don't pay taxes, and don't care about keeping products away from kids. legal regulated cannabis struggle to compete when they're hit with all the crushing federal tax burdens, while illegal operators face no oversight of law at all. Under current state law, state legal cannabis companies can't deduct normal business expenses on federal taxes, something every other legitimate business can do. Massive disadvantages pushing customers towards an unregulated market. Moving to Schedule 3, the category for substances with accepted medical use and lower abuse potential would let legal businesses operate fairly, which means more resources for regulation and enforcement where it actually matters. We're not talking about legalizing marijuana at the federal level. Schedule 3 substances are still controlled, but this change acknowledges what doctors, researchers, and patients already know. Cannabis has legitimate medical uses. For many people in law enforcement, this isn't just about public safety. This issue hits close to home for many cops, particularly those who've served our country in the military. Research show that PTSD among police officers and other responders can be as much as 5 times greater than the general population. Cannabis-based treatments could help, but current federal restrictions make access difficulty, especially for active duty military and federal employees. Rescheduling wouldn't solve all these problems overnight, but it's a necessary step toward sensible policy that serves both public safety and the people who dedicate their lives to protecting others. Supporting cannabis rescheduling isn't about pro-marijuana or anti-marijuana. It's about recognizing that our current approach isn't working. The federal-state conflict undermines law enforcement's effectiveness, props up criminal markets, and prevents us from focusing resources where they're needed most. We can regulate cannabis responsibly like we regulate alcohol and prescription medications. We can research its effectiveness and use scientifically. We can create standards and oversight. After years enforcing marijuana prohibition, most of us in law enforcement have reached the same conclusion. It's time for federal policy to catch up with reality. Rescheduling to Schedule 3 is a practical, evidence-based step that will make our jobs easier and be safer. That's not politics. That's just good policing, guys. Just good policing. So I did this because it's fun and it's good to see that hopefully more law enforcement officers, because one person that comes out against this, will continue to come out and approach. People have been saying it to me in the shadows for years regarding this issue, and it's just great to hopefully be able to have them come out, and tomorrow I have oral argument on a case regarding a firefighter and his medical use of medical marijuana before the second DCA, so to kind of establish employee rights for patients in the state of Florida. So, I thought it was timely, good to hear this type of issue by former law enforcement, and we know there's so many different law enforcement agencies out there or organizations out there that are former law enforcement officers that are fighting for changes to cannabis laws because it's a waste of time, resources, and a human rights violation. So appreciate you guys. Anything you have on this issue? I know you all support it.
Yes, Schedule 3. So this is retired law enforcement, Michael, right? This is not actual law enforcement.
No, very, very few, it seems, actual law enforcement come out on it, especially the lower downs.
Yeah.
We did have a couple sheriffs in Florida that came out to support it during the last election and that previously supported medical as well. But it's really hard to get, former cops that have a chain of command still to come out on that issue.
I mean, really, you need like just a few sheriffs to really start to amplify this type of a message, and you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think the problem is that there's still so many sheriffs that still believe all the bullshit with it. So,
well, no, I don't think that that's necessarily it, Michael. I think that they're worried about losing their power to be able to use smell as probable cause to be able to do their job, because that's such an easy open door for them to find other hardened criminals and whatnot. And without that, I mean, the reality is, like, if someone's carrying a firearm, it's a lot easier to find that firearm if you're searching because you smell weed in the car, as opposed to there is no smell of a firearm in a car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't think that they want to lose that ability to be able to use that as the necessary agent tool for conducting searches.
Oh, I agree. And the forfeiture money, low-hanging fruit and forfeiture money.
Forfeiture money, of course. Yes, exactly right.
Yep. Huge issue.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Gary?
Well, I think the flip side of that is that law enforcement doesn't like grayness, and they like to be able to understand what laws they're enforcing and what their mandates are. And one of the biggest challenges that with marijuana and hemp is exactly that. One, they can't tell the difference between the two. They're not sure.
Well,
what
hold on,
laws.
Gary. Is there really a difference between the two? I thought it's all the same plant.
Well, there's a difference legally. So let's just talk about that. I mean, we could get into the debate of the one plant, but what I'm saying is that just highlights the issue, is that since there is no difference, one of them's legal, one of them isn't, you're giving law enforcement an untenable job to figure out what to do for basically a victimless crime that they don't want anything to do with. Now, I'm not talking about when they pull over somebody who's got 50 kilos and assault weapons and blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about just general pulling people over for, smelling, smoking, or even having a little bit in. I think most law enforcement would prefer not to do it, but they don't want to be criticized one way or the other. And I think the ambiguity across this country and the bifurcation of regulatory standards between Controlled Substance Act and state law has made it very challenging for law enforcement.
But Gary, if you have a car full of artillery and that's it, and it doesn't smell like weed, you think the cops are going to find the artillery?
Well, they're not going to be able to. When you say, are they going to find it? I mean, they're not going to pull you over unless you're doing something otherwise.
Well, let's just say I'm doing something otherwise. Let's just say I'm speeding, okay? Because I have a natural lead foot, you know what I mean? And let's just say I'm doing 80 or 90 in a 65, okay? I get pulled over. But I have my license, I have my registration, I have insurance, everything like that. And the car doesn't smell like weed. But meanwhile, I have a ton of guns in the trunk, Gary. Think they're going to find those guns? They're not going to have any justification to find those guns.
No, I mean, they don't. And if they did, it would be thrown out because they don't have probable cause.
That's my point. Then that way, then that means that the only way that the police are going to be able to do their police work with policing the roads is through bona fide snitches and informants. And the reality is that there's a lot more people that tell on themselves when their car smells like weed than with people that are actually going to tell overall and give viable information, so then that way they can make these big busts.
Well, maybe our criminal lawyer could share with us that it's not clear to me that if they have the right to check your car for weed and find other armaments, that search and seizure is valid.
Well, I would say this before Michael hops in is whether or not they're searching your car for weed or not, if they smell cannabis and they find other illegal things in the car, that doesn't default to say that they can't charge you with those other illegal things, Gary.
That's the question.
Yeah, no.
That's a criminal law question that I'm not sure you're correct.
I'm 100% correct. I've seen it happen millions of times.
Yeah. So, it comes down to a few different factors, but typically, so if they find the cannabis and they can arrest you for the cannabis, right, they're going to search the vehicle incident to arrest. If your cannabis is not illegal per se, so for example, in Florida, if you had it in your prescription container and, you showed it to them or whatever, and I don't know why anyone would do this, they would always say no, but they showed it to them saying that they were going to search, then in all likelihood, they couldn't search the rest of the vehicle. Depends, maybe they come out and they get, I can still smell it in the car. Maybe there's something else, then they may be able to. So it would really depend on the factual pattern there. And then in states where odor is not, obviously the people are protected. You can have whatever in your car, if odor of cannabis isn't sufficient to search, especially in a trunk or something. Obviously, if they see a gun or weapon in plain view, on the seat or something of that nature, that may trigger other rights for them to be able to search, depending on the circumstances, and if you did or did not have a legal CCW or a reason to have it.
So again, as I'm saying, I've seen this happen plenty of times. The reality is that when you get your car searched, they don't get a search warrant to search your car, Gary. And so therefore, now with what you're talking about is when that would fall into play, is because when they have a search warrant, they have to outline everything in which they are searching for. And if they find things that are not listed on that search warrant, they cannot legally charge you with that. But however,
so that's not correct.
That's not correct?
It is not. So, for example, and it depends on what it is. So search warrants are limited to the scope of what they're looking for. So say if they're looking for drugs, right? They could then go in your house and go in every drawer and every cabinet or whatever, because you could hide drugs anywhere. So anything that you find during that search, that it's immediately apparent that it's something illegal. So say you're looking for marijuana and they find heroin, they find cocaine, they find guns, and it's immediately apparent that that could be an illegal thing. They could then seize that, and that is sufficient as part of the search. Now, if they're looking for a human being and they go into your house and they're opening up your drawers and stuff, those items that they find in your drawers would be illegal. If they open up your closet looking for the human being, looking under your bed, it would be where those things in the warrant could potentially be in the house as to what they would and would not be able to say is plain view in order to search. So that's slightly differential type of things, but typically if they have a search warrant for a residence or a business, they can look in anything that could contain the item that's in the search warrant.
So I feel like we basically said the same thing, but just in two different roundabout ways, Michael.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page over here. That's all. Because I'm pretty sure, and I agree with you. You know what I mean? As far as with the drugs, yes. Like if they say they're looking for illegal controlled substances, whether or not they find heroin, find cannabis, find any of that doesn't matter, right? But
or anything else.
Well, that's the thing is that now the question is because I have seen this happen before with some people to where they were looking for drugs, but they didn't have guns written on the search warrant, but they still found guns, and then they were still charged them for the guns. And I think that might have just been the fact that they didn't have a good enough lawyer to be able to argue that, or they had a public pretender or something along those type of lines. But at the same time, I do agree with you. Like if they're going there looking for drugs, you know what I'm saying, and they end up finding a body in your backyard, you know what I mean? That's a totally different type of thing.
If the guns were illegal, then they could absolutely charge the people with the guns.
Okay, all right. But if they were legal firearms, they couldn't.
Correct.
Obviously.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, in Florida, you don't need a license anymore. So, and it's like an open carry now. So, I mean, to really go into a house and have to believe, they'd have to see it's like any sort of restricted gun, type of weapon or something of that. And that's usually what happens in those cases. They're walking into these people's, drug lairs or whatever and finding like AKs or
drug lairs. Oh, you make it sound so seedy.
So isn't the point that the officer would have to have probable cause that something illegal is in the vehicle before any of this happens? And then the cannabis or whatever drug they smell, quote unquote, they have to believe that it's illegal. That's 100%. The crux of everything, right? So regardless, it depends on the state and what's going on.
Yeah, but I'm a cop and I smell cannabis.
Getting back to the story, having these retired officers saying, look, we don't really care about weed and we shouldn't have to care about weed. When we pull someone over, just using it as something to search the rest of the car isn't actually very viable, because 9 times out of 10, at least, you're going to find a joint in the car?
Well,
and
Jesse,
what's the point? If you're searching a ton of people, you're wasting all this time searching people for that they have a small amount of legal weed.
Well, Jesse,
who cares? That's a problem and a waste of resources, and a waste of time. And then at the same time, I think Gary and Michael highlighted the fact that it gets so complicated of how many things have to be right in order to prove that there was actually probable cause for something illegal and that it led you down this path. And that becomes very difficult. And if that is very difficult, you're getting into a scary place as a law enforcement officer, especially in today's day and age, where people are going to sue you. And if they do sue you and you lose, that's not good. So they just don't want to mess with it, and they shouldn't want to mess with it.
Well, this is the thing, Jesse, is, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. It's easy for these retired law enforcement officers to say that they don't care about whether or not people have weed on them or not, because they're retired. They're not pulling people over anymore, Jesse.
Well, I think they're just telling the truth because they're not behind the blue line anymore, where they have to all maintain one story. So they're able to say, "Hey, look, this has always been a problem, and this is how we view it, actually." And that's a good thing. And eventually, that's going to be the way that it is, anyways, because weed is everywhere, and it's going to be legal everywhere. Mm-hmm. So searching someone's vehicle because they have weed is not going to be a viable thing.
Fair enough. Well,
yeah. And I heard a lot from law enforcement on the campaign trail, and one law enforcement officer. One time I had a deposition on a grow house, and he comes in to testify, right? And so he was road patrol now. He was no longer in the drug unit. And he's like, I got too many friends in Colorado. He's like, I couldn't arrest people for growing weed anymore. So I thought that was awesome. He left the position of that part of the force because of his beliefs.
Fair enough. Well, on that, this has been a very interesting discussion. Any final thoughts on this, Gary, before we move on? All right. Well, on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Rescheduling cannabis, which was classified as more dangerous than fentanyl. Trump's action will destroy the cartel's illicit black market, expand medical research, and ensure seniors and veterans safely receive the care they need. Thank President Trump for delivering on another America First promise.
Applies to everything.
Oh, yeah. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. Please make sure that you're subscribing to us on X and Rumble, as those are the most stable platforms in the metaverse.
Under President Trump, America is back. Trump's delivered the largest tax cut in history, putting more money in our pockets and restored America's economic dominance. Promises made, promises kept. Now it's time to fulfill another promise from President Trump and reschedule cannabis, which supports over 400,000 jobs and creates billions of dollars in economic growth. Reschedule cannabis and stack another win, Mr. President. America First Agriculture Action Inc. is responsible for the contents of this advertising.
Oh, yes, and we are back, and we're going to roll right into Mr. Jesse Barney. He's the founder of Barney Design Co. and can help take your brands to the highest plateau, whether that be hemp, cannabis, or a regular brand. Just make sure it's not a vape brand. It is none other than Mr. Jesse Barney.
I'll do a vape brand as long as your hardware is super high quality and you're looking to do rosin.
See,
then I'm in.
Let's go. All these precursors.
Hey, that's what branding is, man. You got to tell the truth. I'm not about lying to people. Good branding starts on the truth. That's the whole key. It's not about having a logo that sells something that's junk, which is what most people try to do. Don't do that. My story, small story, nothing like what we've been covering, but it comes out of Colorado. Colorado issues health and safety notice over marijuana with yeast and mold. Colorado health officials have issued a safety notice over batches of marijuana contaminated with yeast and mold sold in 31 stores across the state over the past 2.5 months. The impacted product was all legal marijuana flower produced by Sweetwater Group LLC and sold between November 16th and February 3rd. The stores they were sold at span the Denver metro area, Boulder, Colorado Springs, Eastern Plains, Foothills, Pueblo, and the Western Slope. A full list of the stores can be found in the article on our website, and the complete list of strains and batch numbers as well. The Colorado Department of Revenue and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment say the Sweetwater Group initiated a voluntary recall after the total amount of yeast, mold, and/or aspergillus, a group of hundreds of different types of mold, was above the limits established in the state health guidelines. Individuals who possess this affected product should destroy it or return it to the store from which it was purchased for proper disposal, the department said in a joint press release. Individuals who experience adverse health effects after consuming the affected product should seek medical attention immediately. The agencies are urging anyone who may have bought the marijuana from the impacted batches to check the labels if they still have the containers. This is a small story out of Colorado, but I think this is important to note because this is a much more common experience, I think, than ever gets reported. I think there's a lot of mold and yeast and things in dispensary products. They are not as clean as you might think, so beware out there, friends. If you can grow your own, grow your own. If you can know the person that's growing it, know the person that's growing it, and get the most high quality, most verifiably clean weed that you can.
I mean, you know, I'm not surprised at this coming out of Colorado, Jesse. Not even in the slightest. I mean, Colorado should just stick to making hash, and that's it. They should not even sell weed because and none of it is fit to smoke that comes out of Colorado.
And we're not diving into this again.
I'm just saying, it's just the truth. People don't like
Colorado,
the truth.
I've seen plenty of great Colorado
Just
weed.
because it looks good doesn't mean it smokes good, Jesse.
In fact, on Thursdays, you have a grower who's on every week, Mr. Chris Vouse, who lived in Colorado for a number of years. He's one of the best growers in the country.
He doesn't live there
amazing
anymore.
Weed in Colorado.
He doesn't live there anymore. Probably it was all for hash, Jesse. Wasn't for actually smoking.
Nope, incorrect.
I don't know. Doesn't matter, but still.
That's okay. You can be wrong.
I'm not wrong. I'm never wrong.
You are actually this
I'm
time.
never wrong.
Just like you were wrong about the Patriots and the Seahawks.
No, I'm not. I wasn't wrong about that. The NFL's gonna.
You were totally wrong.
I was not wrong because the NFL's gonna. The federal government is gonna remove the NFL's nonprofit status.
You're wrong about that too.
Didn't they do that? Didn't the NFL do that themselves a few years ago? I thought they did.
No,
I looked it up.
Not.
There's still a
no way they would not.
501(c)(6).
No, they didn't. No way. They're just gaslighting, bro. There's no way they're gonna do that.
Yeah, they would never do that, and
Yeah.
the government would never take it away from them. It's too big.
Don't be surprised, bro. Don't be surprised.
I'm not surprised. I know exactly.
I'm starting to campaign with the boss to remove their nonprofit status because the Patriots should have won the Super Bowl on America's 250th birthday. I'm very disappointed.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're doing there. Yeah. It's Jason's dream world.
They let the woke left Seattle City win the Super Bowl. It's so crazy.
It's at least good to show the fix isn't in the NFL, like I felt it was after the New Orleans Super Bowl.
The fix is 100% in. Hold on, Michael. The fix is totally in. There was a whole lawsuit where the NFL said that that's not in any of their obligation to run a fair and you know what I'm saying, competition. That people when they go there they pay for the experience, basically similar to like WWE, Michael. And this was all in court documents.
Percent doesn't mean they do.
It's all scripted. It's all fake.
Yeah, I think that ultimately what happens is that if the fans figured that out, the fans would be so upset that the NFL would be incredibly hurt.
I disagree. I disagree with that.
They don't have to do that.
I disagree with that.
Now, do they ever try to influence games? Of course they do. Is there a million reasons to influence games? Of course.
Well, mainly Vegas. Vegas is the main reason, the point spread.
Yeah, of course there's a million reasons. Can they actually completely influence the game
100%.
universally? No.
100%
There's too much chaos in the game.
No way.
They can't guarantee that a game is going to go a certain way.
No way. No way. If they could stage wrestling, they could stage football. It's the same thing. You just have more actors.
No, it's
in the
not
ring.
the same thing.
It's exactly the same.
Wrestling is obviously staged. You'd have to be an idiot to think that wrestling is not staged.
That's my whole point. So is the NFL.
No,
they're all staged the exact same way. 100%.
Not the same.
100%.
Okay, so what you're saying is that every player and every coach and every single person is in on a completely staged event.
Yep.
No way.
Yep. They're performance actors. They're performance players, actually.
No way.
100%.
Not possible.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, those players would not go along with that.
Yeah, they would. They're getting millions of dollars, bro. They're getting paid off. Of course they are going to go for it. 100%.
You wouldn't have every single player universally go along with that. There's no way.
He would. Everyone's a sucker for money.
Ever say it and come out and say it's
there's no way.
Yeah, well, they can't. They can't do that. They can't do that because they can't do that. Let me tell you something, Michael. Michael, you know that they can write documents in there to where they say that if they ever disclose X, Y, or Z, that they have full authority to go and seize all of their assets. And that's all it takes is something written like that in a document where they forfeit everything that they've made and done in life and forfeit it back to the NFL if they ever come out and speak out against it or tarnish their That's come on, Michael, you know that. You know how to draft these contracts. Stop.
That's blackmail.
No, that's not.
So that would make it even easier to sue them.
That's not blackmail.
Open up the whole thing.
That's not blackmail.
100%.
No, that's
blackmail.
not. That's a performance agreement.
If you expose our lie, then we're gonna come.
American
after you.
Idol
That's
does
exactly what blackmail is.
American Idol does it. They don't call it blackmail.
Okay. It's not the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing, bro. You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. I love you guys dearly, but you guys are crazy.
Projection, bro. You're saying we're crazy, but you're projecting right now.
I'm not projecting. Well, the screen is projecting on everyone's image. Yeah.
Projection and gaslighting, bro. It's not working. It's not working.
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
I know you don't know. I can tell.
I don't know. I think you're totally wrong about this.
If anybody has an argument for it right now, it's Gary sitting up there in the corner after the Bills game.
Yep.
So
we got jumped, but I don't know. I don't know what the goal was, but they clearly didn't want the Bills to win that game.
Well, I mean, it's because it's Buffalo.
It's hard to believe, Jason, given the FanDuel connection, and you want to talk about a nationwide Justice Department probe because you've got these networks and the league promoting gambling on the games, and if the games are fixed and they're promoting gambling, I like that law.
Oh yeah,
it's all fixed, bro.
Smoker.
It's all fixed, Gary. It's all fixed. It's all fixed. It's all fake. I'm standing by that. It's all fake.
We already know you're standing by it, bro. Let's go to the next story.
Fair enough. We're gonna roll into our final commercial, and we're gonna be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Ah, yes, and we are back, and we are rolling right into Mr. Gary Kaminsky. Gary is a regulatory compliance attorney with over 39 years of experience working in highly regulated industries. For the past 10 years, Gary has focused his practice on the cannabis and marijuana space, advertising public multi-state operators, hemp beverage manufacturers, and other participants in the cannabis supply chain. Prior to that, Gary was a SEC enforcement attorney, in-house counsel for proprietary trading firms, broker-dealer, and a principal at several hedge funds. And Gary's expertise is in developing, implementing, and maintaining regulatory enterprise risk management systems to mitigate lapses that can cause disruption to clients' businesses. It is none other than the Commissioner himself, Mr. Gary Kaminsky.
All right, we're heading
Yeah.
back to my home state where, surprise, surprise, a statewide advisory board set up to oversee how Florida spends millions of dollars from a nationwide opioid settlement deal was never told that Governor Ronnie D's office directed more than $4 million from that fund to a media blitz designed to defeat a 2024 ballot initiative to legalize marijuana. 15 months after members raised questions, they still have no answers from the state about the process that shifted the money into the coffers of a Republican-aligned marketing firm. The firm ran ads warning of the dangers of marijuana during the weeks leading up to the vote on the Amendment 3, which won approval from 56% of Florida voters, but failed to reach the 60% threshold needed to become law. I thought they were going to bring something back, but they haven't, said Lee Constantine, a Seminole County commissioner and former state lawmaker who sits on the statewide Council on Opioid Abatement. When I ask questions, I expect an answer, and I've never gotten one, quote unquote. Constantine said he does not think opioid settlement money should have been spent on anti-marijuana advertising, and he expected more discussion among his fellow council members. I believe the dollars we get should be spent on treatment and helping those in really dire circumstances, he said. All the dollars we get should be on treatment and abatement. The ads in question were ordered by the State Department's Department of Children and Families and coincided with a slew of anti-marijuana TV and online ads sponsored by other state agencies, including the Agency for Healthcare Administration, the Florida Department of Education, the Florida Department of Health. The state ultimately spent more than $35 million to defeat Amendment 3, sparking outrage from those who said state money intended to help the public should not be used to influence the election. The council was set up in 2023 to oversee the $3 billion Florida is to receive over 18 years as part of a court settlement opioid manufacturers, pharmacies, and distributors. The state has spent at least $446 million of that since the settlement agreements were approved. The agreements say the money is to be used primarily to help eradicate the opioid crisis through prevention, education, treatment, and recovery efforts, but they also said it can be spent to combat substance abuse in general. Council is charged by state law to make recommendations for and reviewing the spending of those funds. Its members are appointed by the governor, attorney general, legislative leaders, DCF top executive, and the associations representing cities and counties. A state agency must tell the council each year how it intends to use the settlement funds, Florida law says. A video recording of the council's October 30th 2024 meeting shows Constantine discussing news reports from earlier that week, stating that $4 million in opioid funds had gone to anti-pot ads, with Seminole County Sheriff Dennis Lemma, who was appointed by the Attorney General to chair the council. Constantine questioned the expenditures at that meeting and asked for more information, and he said there needs to be more oversight on how those dollars are spent. Lemma said during the meeting that he had not received any information from DCF about the expenditure. That is not something I have any direct knowledge of that has come to our council, Lemma said. Actually, Amendment 3 has not been discussed by any of us at all. But he added that the settlement rules allowed some money to be spent for education, awareness, and prevention, so that could give the state some wiggle room on how to appropriate opioid dollars. That year, the trust had earmarked $18 million for primary prevention and media campaigns, quote, allowing for some openness to interpretation of what those are, end quote, he said. In an email to the Orlando Sentinel on Friday, a spokesman for Lemma said any inquiries regarding the expenditure of these funds should be routed through DCF or the Florida legislature. DCF did not respond to questions this week about spending the opioid settlement money on ads to defeat Amendment 3. The agency ultimately paid Strategic Digital Services $4.4 million, quote, to develop an impactful advertising campaign aimed at educating Floridian families and youth about the dangers of marijuana, opioid, and drug use, according to public records. None of the other council members participated in the discussion, Constantine said, and they have not brought it up since. Amy Roshausen, who also serves on the council, was among those who did not address the issue in that 2024 meeting, but months later found herself embroiled in the Hope, Florida scandal that also involved state money spent to defeat the marijuana amendment. Roshausen is the CEO of Drug Free America Foundation, executive director of the Save Our Society Drugs PAC, and a, quote, Florida hero, end quote, headed by Governor Ronnie D. and First Lady Casey D. for her anti-drug work. 3 weeks before the Opioid Council met in October 24, the Hope Florida Foundation received $10 million from a Medicaid settlement, which it gave to 2 political action committees, one of them Rosenhausen's. These PACs, in turn, quickly sent money, much of the money, to a third committee set up by James Olfmeyer, now the DeSantis-appointed Attorney General, but the governor's chief of staff, to defeat Amendment 3. He was the chief of staff at that point. That donation was at the heart of hearings that roiled the legislature last year and led to a criminal investigation by a Leon County grand jury that is still pending. Roshausen was seen entering the courthouse in October when hearings began. She has claimed she has done nothing illegal. Constantine, who served in the legislature from 92 to 2010, said he hoped lawmakers will look into DCF's use of the opioid settlement dollars for political ads, just as it did last year with Hope America. This is a story that's more of the same, I guess, is what to say. And the governor of Florida clearly appears to have used monies, however way he could get them, to defeat Amendment 3, which was the adult use referendum. And it appears that the smoke is billowing even further to show more actions in this regard. It's not a surprising story on how Tallahassee operates, and it's certainly not surprising on how Ronnie D. has approached the marijuana question in Florida.
You know, Gary, this is the thing, man. What are the real consequences of this? Is it just public scandal and they just have egg on their face? Because I don't hear of any like real consequences that they could face because of this.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not, you know, it's a shame Michael's not here because he probably is much more up on Tallahassee workings. I don't know what the consequences are for an acting governor to have done something like this. It is a grand jury, which would imply that there could be indictments, but I don't know.
I would think that the governor would have legislative immunity on something like this.
Well, I don't know about his wife, because she's the one who did it, it sounds like.
I think she would fall under that because they're married, and you know what I'm saying, pillow talk. You can't.
It's legislative immunity. This isn't legislation. This is misuse of funds. But maybe.
I just feel mainly because it's government funds, right, that got appropriated into this nonprofit. Am I correct on that?
It appears that way, and you know their argument will be, and apparently is, that we used it appropriately. It's for preventing drug abuse, and marijuana is a drug.
Well,
according to them.
And so they're saying that they were working to prevent drug abuse, and so they put out these ads against the initiative to try to stifle the initiative.
That's what it appears to be saying, and whether or not that is can be overcome and lead to an indictment, I doubt it, but we'll see.
I don't think it's going to lead to an indictment. I think that people are just going to be talking about it, and there's going to be one of those things that everybody gets away with. But at the same time, I don't think that there's really a lot of there in this, because I think that there's, I think really competent lawyer could make the legal argument to state that how this was an appropriate use of funds, because anything that is prohibiting the access is therefore prohibiting the availability for the potential of minors to get these hands on these substances. I think a competent lawyer can make that argument in a case. You agree with me on that?
I don't disagree.
Yeah, that's so. I think they were within their legal ability. Although it's it's a little slimy, but it is within the realm of plausibility.
I don't know if they were within their legal ability, but I think that bringing an action against them leading to indictment and then charges ultimately some sort of the verdict is not likely.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this, Jesse?
I just think that overall what matters here is that it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would think that the Florida voters would hear a story like this and kind of shudder.
It's like smoking Colorado outdoor. Bad taste in your mouth. Oh, man. Florida. Man, we love Florida. At least I do.
I hope one of these days that I get to be on with Chris and we get to bring this subject up and I get to see Chris just take you to task.
Chris is not going to take me to task, bro. Chris is going to be
yes.
like, you know what? Colorado.
Chris is much more of an expert at growing than you are.
I don't know. Chris, you know what Chris is going to say? Chris is going to say, you know what? Colorado is really just not the right environment to grow in, and that's why I'm out here in Florida.
No, because
it's not necessarily. Hold on.
He wouldn't say that. You're putting words in his mouth, and that's not.
No, I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'm telling you what I think that he would say.
Well, I know what he would say because I've already talked to him about it.
I mean, Jesse, tomato.
And I know you're wrong. It's like what you think is totally wrong.
I'm definitely not wrong.
He wouldn't say that, so you're definitely wrong about that.
We'll see. Maybe you should hop on Wednesday, Jesse.
You will see.
Maybe you should hop on Wednesday, Jesse. You know what I'm saying? Well, I have one final story for you guys, and I think that this is good news. We started off with good news. I think we're going to finish with good news today on this Monday. Second Monday in February. A Washington bill would bar cities and counties from blocking cannabis businesses. That's right. A new bill filed with the Washington House would prohibit cities and counties from banning licensed cannabis businesses within their jurisdictions. House Bill 2731, introduced today by State Representative Amy Wallen, a Democrat, has been referred to the House Local Government Committee. The proposal would amend state marijuana law to explicitly prohibit localities from enacting ordinances, land use plans, or other restrictions that have the effect of precluding the sitting or operation of state-licensed cannabis producers, processors, and retailers. Under the measure, local governments would no longer be able to use zoning moratoriums or similar regulatory tools to effectively ban cannabis businesses that are otherwise licensed by the State Liquor and Cannabis Board. While many jurisdictions in Washington technically allow marijuana businesses, some have used local land use authority in ways that make it nearly impossible for licensees to actually operate. The bill also makes a significant change to how marijuana tax revenue is distributed to local governments, and current law limits certain revenue distributions to jurisdictions that do not prohibit the sitting of licensed cannabis producers, processors, or retailers, and HB 2731 removes that condition, given that all cities and counties would be essentially forced to allow licensed cannabis stores. If approved, HB 2731 would further cement the state's authority over cannabis licensing by limiting the ability of local governments to stand in the way of businesses that have already met the state requirements to operate. Look at that. That's what California needs right there. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. I think this is fantastic news, and bravo for this bill being introduced, because this local control thing just totally stifles everything, especially here in California. What do you guys got to say? No thoughts? You guys agree that this is a good thing, or you guys think it's a bad thing? Because I've talked with some people that say that when you remove the local control, it's a bad thing because it's against our core fundamental beliefs of how governments are supposed to work and enact for the betterment of their communities. And I kind of understand that too, but I understand that argument as well. But I think in cannabis's situation, I think that those policies get abused.
Well, I mean, from a libertarian perspective, it is up to the locality. It should be more up to the locality than the federal government or the state. So the locality should trump at the end of the day, no matter what. Because if you have a group of people who assemble in a small area and they all think the same way, they should be able to make their own laws that allow them to run their locality the way they want.
So then, Jesse, you're against this legislation, then?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just explaining what the kind of libertarian take would be, and that's typically where I lean.
Based off your libertarian philosophy, you'd be against this bill because you'd say is a government overreach.
I would lean that way. I mean, I can see both sides. See, I'm always the person I like to lean libertarian, but I can see both sides a lot.
Sounds like you're wearing some flip-flops today, Jesse.
No, a good example is like a libertarian would say, basically companies and people can do whatever they want as long as it's not harming anybody. But under that guise or under that philosophy, what ends up happening is corporations will assemble and they will do whatever they want for as long as they can. And that results in like the Spokane area and the rivers from here to Wallace, Idaho, which you may not be familiar with the area, but this was one of the biggest mining areas in the country 100 years ago. And they're still the most polluted soils and rivers in the country because those companies just were allowed to do whatever they wanted. And they knew what they were doing. They knew that they were pumping things into the soil and into the air and into the water that was poisoning the environment, but they just didn't care. So I can see the other side where regulation is important to restrict that. And without that kind of regulation. So getting back to it, it's like as a locality, I think it should be up to your common sense and what you as a group believe and what you want to believe. And this goes to, if you could take it into another subject like abortion or something. Look, if you're of a group of people that don't want abortion and that's your whole county, and you guys all think that it should be illegal to have abortion, then make it illegal in your county. If somebody wants to leave and go to another county or another state where it is legal,
you're conflating cannabis
zoning
laws with murder.
Policy wise, whatever the subject matter is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
what
but
the subject is.
You're conflating cannabis policy zoning laws with murder, Jesse. That's a very different.
No. Okay, I'm just using an example of another thing.
Terrible example.
It doesn't matter what it is. Put it with anything. It could be an environmental regulation. You could be a group of people who think that fluoride is great, and you want to put fluoride in your water.
My dentist says fluoride is great.
Put fluoride in your water. I don't care, but don't make me do it. And if you're going to do it in my county, and you want to have a policy where you think that putting fluoride in the water for the safety of teeth or whatever your reasoning is common sense, then I'm going to move to another place where that's not the case. That's the point. So, and that is how America's house is supposed to be structured, right? The federal government is supposed to be the lowest on the totem pole, except for when it comes to safety or
border security.
And safety meaning security with the
border
military.
Enforcement.
But really, most other things are supposed to be down. The individual on their own property is supposed to be the highest authority in the land. The second highest authority should be a group of individuals in a group of properties that are neighbors that comprise a state or a city or a county. And then the counties comprise the states, right? And you can see how this goes down the line. That's how it's supposed to be. That's what the founding fathers really intended. So in that perspective, when a county says we don't like weed, fine. And if you're a weed person, you don't have to go there.
And so Jesse,
don't go there.
Jesse is against this legislation. His fundamentals don't allow.
I'm explaining the way that a libertarian would think of it, and I'm telling you, I can see both sides.
It's all good. Gary, what do you think about this?
First of all, I'd like Jesse to say the word black just so Jason will say the word white today.
You know, I wore black and white today, Gary, just for that.
What I would just add to this is that what I have seen is that the localities have acted without necessarily support of the referendum of the folks who are in that locality, because the people on the board have a certain opinion.
Agenda.
And to me, they should not be allowed to do that. If you literally had a referendum of, Humboldt County, and the Humboldt County people said, we don't want weed, which obviously would be impossible, then, maybe the locality, per Jesse's description of how the government should work, it makes sense. But I think sometimes the localities make decisions that are not indicative of the populace.
That you bring up a very good point, Jesse, and I think maybe they should add another thing into this bill that says that the only way that they could enforce a ban locally is in a special election or a normal election, and have a citywide or countywide vote to outright ban it within that jurisdictional walls. I could see that, but that's something that people would have to vote on as a single issue.
Well, see, again, and I can see both sides, because look, the locality, you have to dive in super deep to this, and it gets very complicated, because you have to ask, is this harmful to the greater population at large? So is the local population choosing to enact a policy in their locality that is harmful to the greater population at large, or even to their own population? And that becomes very difficult. And this is where libertarianism starts to break down, I think, is that sometimes localities do that. So is restricting, and I would dive in and say, is restricting cannabis on a local level harmful to people? I would say yes, because you're restricting access to people who need it, especially for medical purposes, and that's ridiculous. So what, they have to travel really far to go get their medicine? That's crazy. You are harming people by doing that. So I think that when you really dive in and examine it from that perspective, you're gonna find that it breaks down. So you see what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't necessarily have a dog in the fight. I'm not sure which side I would land on. I haven't done enough research to really understand how it all breaks down and where the things are. But I can see both sides, and it is it's an amazing argument. I mean, this is an American argument. We've been arguing this, states' rights, local rights versus federal rights for a long time, and I think we're going to continue to do so. And it's a good argument to keep having.
So now, I guess, Jesse, my next question and final question is, your flip-flops, are they thongs or Jesus sandals?
I don't wear flip-flops ever.
Oh, that was fun, Jesse. That was fun.
I do not wear flip-flops ever.
Thank you all.
Literally, my whole life, I've never worn flip-flops.
Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. And thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners Elias and Gabriel. They're somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. Weed for the people.